Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I have a review of the Deli colored pencils. They are sold in Amazon in the United States under the Starjoy brand, and it is a Starjoy set of 72 that I'll be reviewing. Now Starjoy has different sized sets in different configurations. They have sets that come in rolls, like fabric rolls. They have a 120 set, but those are not the Deli pencils. The Deli pencils, which is a brand that's been widely used and known in China for a long time. I guess it's one of the most popular brands, probably like what Prismacolor would be to us in America. So they're not some fly-by-night company, and I was really curious about them. I picked up this set of 72 pencils for $20.25 a couple months ago on Amazon, and currently they're selling for about $28. I probably wouldn't recommend paying more than $30 for this set, but if you are interested in them and you find a good deal, hopefully today's review will help you decide whether they are for you or not. I've heard great things about these pencils, and that's why I had my eyes open for them, and when I spotted a deal, I decided to give them a try. Why not, right? So these have been touted as a polychromos alternative, and I hear that a lot with budget pencils, and I tend to be very skeptical when I hear that claim. Now it's and I think it's very important to know that I'm reviewing these pencils and I'm going to give it my best try at being unbiased, but I prefer softer pencils, and these are not a soft pencil. They are in fact very similar to the firmness of a polychromos, and I just thought I'd put that out there so that you know my preferences on this review. So if I am a little bit tougher on these pencils than you think I ought to be, I don't know, you know my preferences. I prefer a softer pencil, so I'm only gonna like these so much, basically. I like polychromos, and I bought a few open stock probably about 20 years ago, and then ended up investing in the set because I really liked them. But I still kept finding myself drawn back to my Prismacolors, and that's what I would use more often. And then the Derwent Color Softs, and then the Derwent Lightfast. So I gravitate to those softer pencils, probably because I'm more of a mixed media artist than a color pencil artist. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at some examples of artwork. We're going to look at the pencils, and we're going to compare them to the polychromos in case that's why you're interested in this set. And I will link to the set that I bought in the video description. And what I also recommend anytime you're looking at budget pencils is that you look at the most recent reviews on Amazon, because sometimes companies will change suppliers, or they will there'll be some disruption where the quality isn't as good. If you look at the most recent reviews, you'll get to see how things are currently. Now, there may be several listings on the Starjoy set, and the 72 set is the Deli pencils, but I guess there could be reviews for their other size sets that aren't Deli pencils. So it's kind of a buyer beware situation, but I just trying to put as much information out there without overwhelming you. So this is what the pencils look like. They come with this plastic piece, which I think is to put in between the pages on your sketchbook or your coloring book if you're a coloring book enthusiast, so that you don't dent the next page, or you don't put pressure on previous pages and end up like picking up the pencil and transferring it onto another page of like a sketchbook or a coloring book. So I think that's what this is for, just to keep your keep from like kind of pressing and picking up other colors down the road in your sketchbook, because that's happened to me so many times. So I should just remember to have one of these handy and use them. This is what the color selection looks like swatched out. The color scheme is very vibrant. We have quite a few like peachy pinks that are very similar to each other. We have a couple reds that are almost indistinguishable, and like 3 pinks that are very similar, which is kind of a shame in a limited selection like this. There's no cream, there's no Naples yellow, there's no yellow ochre, there's none of those soft fawny browns that for me I use a lot. I use a lot in like building up depth. I think it might be difficult to do many portraits with this. I mean, definitely you could blend up, and you totally can do it like by layering and whatnot, but you don't have as many of the kind of opaque creamy colors that I personally like a lot when I'm working with colored pencils. The other thing to mention is that after I swatched these out, I swatched in the bottom 2 blocks of each of these little rectangles, and then I used a wet brush, and they all were very water soluble. Not quite as water soluble as a watercolor pencil. Like a watercolor pencil, you wouldn't be able to see that the bottom 2 blocks were darker, but kind of like in between a regular pencil and a watercolor pencil. They do move a lot. So if you're going to use these in a mixed media application, if you like to use spray inks on top of your colored pencils, if you like to use fixative, those wet media might disturb your layer of colors. Now, I've been testing a lot of budget pencils for this attribute, and I find that most of them that are marketed as oily pencils and not wax-based pencils will move with moisture. So just kind of keep that in mind. It was never a problem from any of my artwork because I would use colored pencils last. But if you like to go back in with wet media afterwards, you'll want to know about that so that you don't end up with surprises that you weren't expecting, as opposed to surprises you were expecting. Let's look at the build quality. What I'm going to do is try to find a couple colors that are pretty similar to one another. Let's see. Do I have yeah, these two colors look kind of close. Well, maybe not. That one's much darker. Let me see. Maybe this one and those two look fairly close. So let me sharpen each of these in my sharpener. I just got this sharpener a couple months ago, and it's by Office World. And I've been on the same charge for a couple weeks, and it's doing really well. I'm gonna probably do a review on this separately, but it sharpens way quicker than my old my old sharpener. So let's look at these side by side because these are fairly both fairly new pencils here, or less used. So the color, they look very similar. The Deli has silver writing where the Polychromos has gold writing, but it's a very similar kind of branding. I find the pencils to be the same size. Maybe the Polychromos is just a smidgen thicker, but I don't know. They're both pretty much the same. And I would say the leads are both like about 4 millimeters thick. They both have nice thick leads. I didn't have breakage issues. And I found they laid down pretty similar. The Polychromos seemed to have a little bit less drag. Like the Polychromos was a little bit smoother. I just grabbed a piece of paper. I'm just going to do these side by side. I actually did record this review, but then I got rambling and I'm like, All right, so this one is my Polychromos. And this is the back side of just a scrap of watercolor paper here. I'm using very little pressure. Let's do very little pressure with the Deli. I feel like there's a little bit more drag on the Deli. Now these aren't exact matches, but I do feel like a little bit of a little bit more drag. Let's go the opposite way on these. This is the Polychromos, right? Yeah. They feel very similar. I would say hardness-wise, they are very similar. And they feel very similar in the hand, the same similar weight. And am I getting a little more dust with this one? Gosh, it's hard to tell. So the differences are actually pretty minute. One of the big differences, though, would be with the quality of the Polychromos, is that Polychromos have much better lightfast rate. They've been lightfast rated for one thing, and they're going to have more longevity. Like your artwork's going to have a little more longevity. These almost feel waxy, like a little more waxy, whereas the Polychromos don't have any sort of waxy drag to them. So that's something. Now, I'll show you what I mean about the water here. Let me grab a brush and let me just grab a little water. You know what? I'll just squirt a little bit of water because I don't have a water cup out. Okay. So there's a generous amount of water on both of those. Okay, so this is the Starjoy on the bottom. You can see that color's moving. Not as bad as I thought it would, though. I'm going to clean off my brush. And the Polychromos is moving a little bit. Actually, that's pretty similar, to be honest, for those two colors. Well, this one, the Starjoy is probably doing more because it's a lighter color and we get that much movement, and the other one's a darker color. So I'm gonna try a couple. Let's try another color. Let's do a Polychromos. Right, I'm just gonna go firmly so I can see what I can get for color to move. And let's do a Starjoy red here. Get in the right cases. These actually kind of remind me a bit of Arteza as well. What was this? Was a Polychromos. See how there's movement there, you know? There's way more movement with the Starjoy though. Yep, there's way more movement with the Starjoy. And then I did test a couple colors here that I used in this sketch because I wanted to compare them side by side, draw something with one than the other. This was the Starjoy, which I actually like the way the Starjoy bird came out better, to be honest. Maybe because they were just maybe a touch softer and I could get a little bit more down at once. Maybe it's they have a little bit, I don't know if they have a little more wax in them or something, but I enjoyed sketching with them. I did have to sharpen my pencil more often with the Starjoys than with the Polychromos. But anyway, Starjoy moved with water much more than the Polychromos did. But they both moved a little bit. I mean, even the Polychromos moved a little bit. But I just thought I would show you that. I also found that, is there like a little bit less sheen? I almost feel like the Starjoy had a little bit more vibrancy in the black. But I found the Polychromos seem to blend a little bit more. So you're probably going to end up layering a little bit more with those. But then again, I also think you're going to fill the tooth pretty quickly with a Starjoy. So if that happens, if you add water to kind of pick up some of the waxy residue, then you can go in with more after it's dry. I did this here with, so that was again Polychromos, that was Starjoy. Here, this is Starjoy, and this is Polychromos, and this is on sanded paper. Sanded paper is what I like to use when I'm using Polychromos, and I like the stuff Polychromos better than the Starjoy on this paper, but I think it might have had more to do with the fact that I had a better color selection in Polychromos for this particular subject matter, and I didn't have the ochres and the, you know, soft fawny sable browns that that I kind of wanted in the Starjoy. So quite equivalent. They're actually they feel very similar to somebody who uses softer pencils. Let's put it that way, because I might not feel as many nuances between harder brands of pencils because I tend to use softer pencils. I'm just trying to be completely fair here. But comparable. I think the Polychromos looks a little bit better there. And then this is one I did, and I do have a video on this one on my YouTube channel. This is on it's a pretty thick mixed media paper. It's the Viviva and Inktober sketchbook, and this is the smoother paper, and I did struggle building up color here. I think the outcome was fine, but I did struggle because I felt like the tooth got full so quick and I couldn't layer up. So I would suggest a toothier paper if you are using these pencils. Did I mention, so I paid $20.25 for my set with tax. Of the Starjoy 72, and my FaberCastels are many years old. I paid $160, and that was probably close to 20 years ago, if not more. But now it's like I think it's $270 for a set of 120 FaberCastels now. So it's a huge price difference. I would suggest if you think you want the Polychromos, but you're not comfortable spending that kind of money and you don't want to just get a tiny set, you could give the Starjoys a try. And if you don't like the feeling of the Starjoys, then you're probably not going to like the feeling of Polychromos. Now the Polychromos advantages are going to be the light fastness and the fact that you can buy a pencil if you run out. Whereas the Starjoys, as far as I know, you cannot just replace a pencil. If you run out, you'd have to buy a new set, or maybe replace it with the Polychromos. The Starjoy has, all the colors are pretty saturated and vibrant. You don't get the nuanced colors that you're going to get with Faber-Castell. Now, I know this is going to irk some people that I don't have everything all like rainbow order. But, you know, you can rainbow order yours if you want, but just to give you an idea of what the Polychromos range looks like versus the Starjoy 72. And the reason I bought the 72 and not the 120 is because the 120 Starjoys are not the same. They're not the Deli pencils, and I was really curious about getting the Deli pencils because I wanted to get the higher quality that the Deli is supposed to be. So just to kind of give you an idea of color ranges, the Faber-Castell have more of a muted palette, but they're also more light fast. There's just certain colors, like these purples, these fuchsias, those are difficult to make in a light fast color. And I don't even think all of Faber-Castell's colors are light fast, but they're going to be pretty good, and they all are rated at least, so you know what you're getting. Whereas when you're getting a budget pencil, you are kind of taking a gamble, well, you're definitely taking a gamble. So if you're doing your sketchbook work or just to learn, I don't see a problem with this at all. If you want to display your artwork, like you want to paint a portrait of your kid and you want to hang it up on the wall, I think I would, well, I definitely would recommend, if you're going to put that time in, that you buy a lightfast pencil that's not going to fade, because you don't want to put a lot of work into something and have it fade, or heaven forbid sell something and then have it fade or for your customer. So keeping all that in mind, if you want these pencils, knowing everything that I've mentioned so far, then I think you'll be pretty happy with them, as long as you get a good price. I think they're around $28 today on Amazon. You know, and that's about what they've been since they came out, between right around $30. But then when I saw them go on sale for like 19 something, I snagged them because I'd heard such great things about them. If you're a coloring book artist, I know that a lot of the coloring book channels have reviewed these. I heard about these from the channel Color My World, and she also uses artist grade pencils as well as budget pencils. So with her raving about them, I'm like, well, I'm going to give them a try if she thinks they're that great. So I do know there's been a few coloring book channels that have used these. So if that is your art form, if that's what you like to use pencils for, I would definitely check out their reviews to see what they say before buying, because I haven't used them in coloring books and I'm really not that familiar with what qualities you might want from a pencil in that. I think these would be fine for stamping as well, but honestly I would still choose my Prismacolors or Colorsoft for doing stamped projects myself, because I like to layer up thick passages of color and blend and work on opaque pencils, papers. You know what we should try? We should probably try these on black just to see how well they hold up. So I'm going to grab a piece of dark cardstock anyway. I'll just grab some. Well, I think I do have some black here. Yeah, I'll just grab, I got a black little card, and we'll just swatch some of these out and see how they look. We'll swatch the more pastel looking ones because they're the ones that will generally show up a little bit better, and we'll see. Oh, that's not bad. You know, they're not bad on black. I think that, I'm wondering if they might have a little more wax in them than, say, a Polychromos. They don't feel like, you know, if you've ever colored with like a watercolor pencil, it's a little bit squeaky and scratchy because they're meant for being water soluble. They don't feel as squeaky and scratchy as some others have that have been like harder like that. You do kind of lose your color, like if you get really light, you're just gonna almost show just white on the black card. But let's try this nice buttery yellow. But they're not bad. Actually, you know what? I think if you are a stamper and you want to work on dark colored cardstock, I think you'd be fine. Well, it's not too shabby. This might be a nice set to keep in your travel bag, where you might not want to bring your Prismacolors because they can be so dramatic if they get dropped. Let's see how the white. I'm not going to hold out hope that the white is going to be. Oh, the white's not bad actually. Now it did get a little dusty and the tip did snap on the white, but it's not too surprising, I don't think. I wish there were some more pastel-y kind of earth tones. Personally, I think that would be really helpful if you do portraits. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you can do portraits with them, but I don't think they would be my top pick for a portrait set. But, you know, for all around pencils, especially if you like to do things like cartoon characters, if maybe you're thinking about getting this for your kid and your kid likes to do a lot of cartoon characters and use bright colors, and, you know, maybe they're a little clumsy, a little hard on supplies, but you want to get them a decent quality, I think these would be nice just because they're going to be more resistant to breakage than, say, a Prismacolor, but they're still going to have a nice color payout. You have the option to use them with water to blend, so you don't have to have odorless mineral spirits or any solvents to blend. I think they're a decent pencil. I think they're worth the price if you get them for under $30. And they would be a nice training ground if you think you might want to get Polychromos in the future, but you're not quite ready to spend that kind of money, but you still want a variety of colors. So there you have it. That's my hot take on these pencils. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found this useful. And if you have any questions, go ahead and pop them in the comments below. And just remember, anytime you're going to order budget pencils off Amazon, look at the most recent reviews and make sure that that they're still as good as they have been in the past, because sometimes companies change their manufacturer, especially with the last year and a half that we've had where supply chains have been shut down. You know, sometimes they're in a scramble and they're getting supplies from other factories. So this is for the Deli Starjoy pencils. Of course, check out other people's reviews too, because like I mentioned before, I tend to use softer pencils, and somebody that works primarily in harder pencils is going to have a more nuanced review and other thoughts about these pencils, and I want you to make wise choices with your money and get the art supplies that are right for you. And remember, the best art supplies to use are the ones you already own. So if you don't need pencils, don't buy pencils and use what you have, and enjoy life and make some great art. Thanks so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up before you go. And until next time, happy crafting.